Roger Alcoholic.
Roger.
So we're through trial and error in these techniques, these 12 techniques, these exercises, since October 11th, 1978. So, for those that you haven't been coming, there were 2 sessions in front of this, admission and submission. Admission, we're talking about phases or transformative phases that bring about a spiritual awakening or transformation. And so the admission is step 1. We allow in a new idea, which is power is the problem, lack of power is the problem. And a further idea that's allowed in is that maybe that power is also lacking in my ability to manage my life. And we're not just talking about the external part of your life, but mostly the emotional landscape. I am absolutely a slave to whatever I'm thinking. One day I'm up, one day I'm down, one day I'm around. I can't find. I'm reading all the goddamn books I can find. I'm practicing 7 habits of successful people. And I've got the Buddha over here. I got shit showing up on my phone every day to remember. I just can't do any of it. So it's an allowing in. It's not a surrender. It's allowing in. And then we submit our ego. We submit our lower self, our false self, pain body, if you're a totally guy, to a reappraisal. And that happens in 2 through 7. Reappraisal. What are my thinkings? What are my thinkings? Yeah, it could be thinkings. What do I think? Why do I think that way? What is my approach? How has it worked? How has it worked? And we generally start that discovery in the 4th step exercise. We look at our resentments, our fears, and our sex conduct, harmful behavior to others. And the 6th conduct inventory is not about intercourse. There might be some of it in there, but it's not about that. It's really about being usurious. It's being manipulative and harmful and hurtful to other people. And the tools we use are jealousy, suspicion, bitterness, selfish self-centeredness, right? And we look at all those areas, and as you do that, you're going to come to some conclusions. The way I'm approaching this thing I call my life isn't working, because what you're walking around with is the byproduct of that perception. What I'm walking around with isn't what you did to me. It's what I've been doing to me for decades. I don't know how to see the world differently. And underneath all of that is 2 things. I'm afraid, I'm not safe. And that, hi Jai. And that can be safe on multiple levels and multiple degrees of not feeling safe. I'm not saying I'm walking around terrified. I'm just walking around with my shields up all the time. And the other one that was much harder for me to uncover was I think I might be unlovable. I think I might be broken really bad, and I can't be fixed. So I have this fear I'm not safe, and I have another fear that I'm not lovable. Those 2 things were under all my inventory stuff, just for your consideration. So, we get that down, talk to someone, hopefully that's an enlightening conversation. Then we go in 6 and 7, where we take this, and if we got a good person doing this 5th step with us, you'll have this conversation. What do you still cling to? Which is code for what are you not going to give to this process? What are you not going to give to the steps? What are you not going to give to God? What are you not going to give to the process? Because a lot of us don't want to talk about God at this point, right? It doesn't have to be God. It just has to be something of a higher nature and authority than me. Those steps, that spiritual set of exercises, is a higher authority than me, because it can produce results in and of myself I can't do. Okay? So that could be a higher authority. So the question is, what do you still cling to? Right? And if we're honest, we'll find some things we still cling to. And then it says you got to be praying, you got to be willing to pray for the willingness to move on that, to have a change in your heart. That's all. That's all. Carry on. And we get into the 3rd phase, which is restitution, which we're talking about tonight. Here's the definition. The restoration of something lost, stolen, or broken to its proper owner or status. So, there's a list in 8, and there's willingness. And it says, we became. That's in time. I became willing to make amends to them all. That doesn't mean I have to be willing to make amends to them all right now. It's like the second step, came to believe. In time, that idea came to me. In time, I became willing to make amends to them all, but I didn't start out. And it's not really relevant how many you want to do, as long as there's one. Because that's the only one you can do anyway, is one. Right? So that's a list, and that's a willingness thing. And the ninth step is what we call direct amends. This is the restitution phase. Now, if you violate man's laws, a lot of times your restitution is done in time. I violated a law, I gave him $120. I violated another law, I gave him $120. I violated another law plus another law or two, and I did 5 years in the joint. Okay. I have done my time. I have paid my debt to society, right? There might be some financial restitution with that as well, but anyway, that's a common form and a really easy kind of black and white form. I did my time. If you did a year in the workhouse and your time was served and you completed it, and they came back after you were out for 2 months, and they came back, we'd like you to do your year. I did my year. I did my year. I can prove I did my. Here's the document here. I did my year. You would not do 2 years. You would not do another year. Because you said I paid that bill. I have paid that debt. Try not to swear.
What?
How am I doing? You see? It's working. Right? So what? So this is interesting, I think. And I think as a fellowship, I'm not saying you guys, but in the observations I've had around the fellowship, we really watered this down. Every time someone steps on someone says, "Oh, I owe you in the mint." "Oh yeah, well, polish my shoe." What the? No, you owe me an apology. Okay? This is different. This is really different. This is also for me. I'm not saying for you. But if you want the past to come off your back, this is where it's going to happen. Because I have been haunted. I have been haunted for things I've done to people, things that were done to me that I couldn't accept. I have been haunted by this crap. I have no way to forgive myself. I can't let go of it. And conversely, I won't let go of it. Because I don't have a substitute. I'm not going to sit in front of the mirror and go, "You're a child of God, loved and protected. Have a nice day." That's just not going to cut it. I need something with some meat. I need something substantial, because I don't know how to do this. One of the reasons we don't want to do it in the step fashion is we get in the first two, that's just kind of a nice little dance we do, right? Conclusions, conversations, not too painful. But you make a decision, all of a sudden you're in action. We're not stupid. People read ahead. I don't mind making your damn list here in the fourth. I don't mind telling you who I'm mad at and what they did. I don't mind that, but I have read ahead. And this down here, oh. And we don't do the stuff in front of it because we're scared. Because I cannot imagine from the consciousness that I walk around with how in the I'm ever going to get that stuff pulled off. How I'm ever going to get straight. I owed some naughty people a lot of money. They were not interested. They were criminals. They were not interested in my evolution as a spiritual being. They could have taken me out at any time. I was hunted, literally. They were hunting me. I got the criminals hunting me. I got the cops hunting me. I got the lawyers hunting me. I was interested in conversations with Roger. So I couldn't see how I could ever do this. But the point is, you're not there. If you have a good sponsor, if you have a good guide, if you have a good mentor, whatever you want to call it, do not call it life coach. Just saying. Oops. I had slipped. If you've had a good helper. The point is, find someone who knows the way. Find someone who knows the way. You go into a national park, you get lost, you find a ranger. "Hey, I'm lost. Yellow sign right, yellow sign right. Here's a map. Oh, that'll help. No, it's upside down. Oh, thanks. Show me how to get out of here. That's what I'm supposed to do with the guys I'm working with. I'm going to show you how to get out of here. Okay? Follow me. I've been here. Oh, I have, really. So by the time you get here, you'll be ready. So if I'm up in here, don't worry about this other crap. Wait there. You're not there. And when I satisfy these questions to my satisfaction, I'm powerless. I'm powerless to manage my life. I'm willing to believe in the possibility that there is a power greater than me. I don't have any idea what that would look like. But I'm willing to believe in the possibility. Because an organizing principle of these steps is that self-reliance has failed me. So more informational books are not going to help me. I'm just going to die smarter. I'm dying with a lot more information than I had last year when I was dying. So, process. And I have to hold myself in it. So while I'm doing the restitution, I'm going to be living in this construction phase 10, 11, 12. But tonight we're talking about that. What is it? I have some harms. And I'll tell you, a lot of you know me. You've heard me enough to know this. But when I whipped through those steps in my mind, and I got to the restitution, it was a problem. Because I did know I hurt some people. I had to figure out how to get over on that. And the way I came up with it was, this is exactly what it is. Oh, you hurt me, I hurt you. We'll call it even. Right? We all hurt each other, of course we did. We're all jerks. So, I'm going to forgive you some of your jerkness. You'll forgive me some. We don't have to have a conversation. Move on. So I didn't do them. Why do them? No need. It's all even. Except none of them think it's all even. So the problem is I have this depressive condition. And it is, I have no hope. I have no frickin' hope for anything better. But I have no real deep, honest desire to go forward and try something new. And I'll tell you, the willingness, the desire were all a gift. It was all grace. Because I did nothing. It happened to me. It looked like it was born to me in my suffering and my pain. But that willingness to proceed, even as crap, as haphazardly as I was, that was a gift. I was falling forward the whole time. It didn't look like it. It was messy. It was ugly. And the progress was really slow. But there was progress. So, on closer examination, I would say things like, I would walk around meetings, oh, phone violation. Who is it? Oh. Okay, here we go. I'm Roger. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Roger. Welcome to the gathering. You can thank Debbie. Who is it? Is it you? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. The person that's blushing. I think that's who it is. I don't know you well enough to humiliate you, so I'll let those girls back there do it to you. Debbie, take her out. No, what are they saying? See what happens when the bell goes off? So, what was I saying? Nothing. Another wasted Wednesday. What was I saying? Nothing. You haven't said anything for 8 years. Thank you, Kathy. Love you too. What are you, a driver? What are you doing here? Jesus. Thanks for the help. Johnny?
I didn't want to pay this slow. Well, very good.
You stumble forward.
Don't talk to me, Kathy.
You're doing it really crappy.
I was doing really crappy. Where was
Diane's awake, though.
Diane's awake tonight. Yeah, well, so here, depressed. Here's where I was. I would walk around meetings when I was in a meeting, and I'd be mumbling to myself. I really can't do the steps. There's such low self-esteem. I'm so depressed. If I could get the depression to go out, maybe I could do some steps. And the guys would look at me and go, "You're depressed. There's a reason for that. What's that? You're an asshole." It was a quote, Di. You're an asshole. That's why you feel depressed, because you've offended yourself. You're not pleased with the man you've become. And one of the things I learned going through this is I had offended myself. A self that I buried as a young boy a long, long time ago. Everyone in this room knows the difference between right and wrong. For you. We don't all have the same code, but we all have a code. You know what it feels like to be treated properly. You know what it feels like to be treated fairly, to be treated justly, kindly, with respect. You know that. We all know how. It feels good. Try and do that to other people, but it feels good. I know the difference. But it's a still small voice, isn't it? It's just, and it gets buried in the hurt. It gets buried in the confusion. It gets buried in the plan. I'll figure this out. And I starts creeping into all my thinking as a boy. I got this. I got this. I got this. I can handle this. I got it. No, I got it. I was the one that always got it. And I did. I got it, yeah. And so all the things that I became as a human being were all the things I loathed. I was a horrible husband. I was a horrible father. I abandoned my family. I was a horrible son. I was a horrible brother. I was a horrible employer. I was a horrible employee. I was a horrible drug dealer. I was a horrible drunk. I mean, I was just a shit. If you were in my life, it was to be used. And I had no conscience at all about discarding you when I was done. None. Didn't even occur to me, because that's the way the world works. That was my philosophy. You get yours, I get mine. There's a trough here. It's called the world. And I'm going to get all I can. If you can get some, good for you. But if you're between me and mine, you're a statistic. I'll be kind on the way down. I'll be kind after I get my goals satisfied. Then I'll be benevolent and kind. But right now, I'm on a mission. An alcoholic on a mission is like a baby in a bulldozer. Okay, machine gun. Okay, forget it. Because I've chased this goal, because the promise of my false self, the promise of that part that feeds my addiction has said, you know what's going to keep you safe? You know what's going to make that fear go away? You know what's going to prove you're lovable? This. Get him, get her, get the money, get the record deal, get this, get this. And on the way, whatever you have to do to get it, that's okay. That's how the world works, okay? Get it. Because until you do, you're vulnerable to death. Because you're vulnerable to proving the very thing you fear the most. You're a freaking loser. You're a failure. Not on a little scale. On a large intergalactic scale. You are right at the bottom of the curve. Just above life form. So, I don't know that's there. But what I've done is I've created a split in my spirit that I didn't know I had. I didn't believe I had. And who I was in the world. And those things are quite different. I have the part of me I show you, the mask, the persona, and I have the part of me that I live with inside. And I can create a situation where you can have a really good experience with me. And you'll walk away thinking, nice guy. Nice guy. But I'll walk away thinking, oh, she knew. And then I'll do it with Mike. And then I'll do it with Tim. I do it, everyone's in different compartments. Right? I'm the only one that knows the whole story. And the whole story creates a lot of dissonance within me. Psychological, emotional, fundamentally spiritual dissonance, right? I have really offended myself on a deep level, and it's produced a lot of pain. And the pain is in my thinking. It's the pain is in how I see me and how I see you. You're a threat. You're a frickin' threat to my very existence. You know, I'm not going to go, oh, look at it. She got a raise. Isn't that wonderful? I'm going to go, shit, there's less for me. Someone sells 50 million records. Now there's less for me. It's all about me. Me. How does this affect me? What does it have to do with me? This is a self-centered fear that we talk about. So, I have hurt a lot of people. But part of this is, you know, we have a phrase that I use with people I work with, some of the sponsees I work with, but groups too. We start with the basic premise, you don't know shit. And they always go, that's cute. No, I mean literally. You don't know shit. Is he serious? Yeah, he's saying you don't know shit. What does that mean? I don't have a single idea that promotes my own well-being, let alone someone else's. That's what I mean. I might have a lot of information. I might have a lot of initials after my name. I might have a lot of money in the bank. I might have a really nice fancy car. I might have a gorgeous wife or a gorgeous husband or a gorgeous dog or 2 or 3 of each in different states. I may be Mormon. But at the end of the day, I am bankrupt. I am aching inside. I am hurting bad. And so I hurt people. I hurt people not because I want to hurt you, but because I think that you have stood between me and what I need to get to feel okay. Basic instincts, Social Security, sex instinct, right? You're in the way of my approval. You're in the way of me getting ahead. You're in the way of me making some money. You're in the way. I want that deal. I don't want you to get that deal. You're in the way. And I can't have that because I bought a lie. There's not enough for all of us. There's only enough for me. So I better hurry and get it. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It's too bad if you get hurt. I mean, I don't want you to be hurt. But if you have to be hurt for me to get it, so be it. Because someone hurt me. People hurt me. I got walked on. I got kicked around. Right? I got betrayed. So that's the way it works. You understand? That's the way it works. So game on. Well, when you get sober and that stuff starts haunting you, the other piece of this is I don't know. I don't really know. That's why when you do your resentments, they say real or imagined. I don't really know what happened or the degree to which it happened. I just know some of the facts. And so I've hurt people, and I've got to correct it. The book is really, really, really clear and specific about this. They talk about financial demands. They talk about marital infidelity. They talk about criminal offenses. They talk about basic character assassination, lying, that kind of stuff. To give you some rough ideas on some approaches you might use. But it's really different when you're thinking and your words shift from, I heard it loud and clear, this is not about you being sorry. I had sorried everyone to death in my life. Sorry.
Sorry, Mike.
Sorry you're late, Ann. Surprised they let you out. That's a joke. So, sorry isn't what we're talking about. What are we talking about? This is not sorry. What do you got besides sorry? How about this? I was wrong. This is how I harmed you. I sat in a meeting with a guy, and he said, "You were wrong." I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, you were wrong." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You were wrong." "Yeah." He said, "No, say it. I was wrong." "Yeah." "Yeah." He said, "No, say it. Don't affirm. Say it." And then it was like, I was. It's like it has a different weight. It has a different. Almost every person I've taken through this process thinks it's about being sorry and apology. And when you change it, and I say every amend's going to start this way. I was wrong. This is how I harmed you. That's the opening. I was wrong. This is how I harmed you. And this attempt to make this thing restore to the condition it was before I hurt you, before I offended you, before I robbed from you, before I stole your dignity and self-respect, before I emotionally beat you to death. That. Now, that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to get free of my past. There's a little latent self-interest here. I'm doing this to get out from under the guilt. I'm doing this to get free of the shit that's been haunting me. Okay? I'm also doing it because it's the right thing to do. There are principles. Honesty, compassion, kindness. You know what? I'm going to deliver the truth to you, provided I don't hurt you some more. That's where you need counsel. That's where you need counsel, because you'll blow it if you don't. And once you blow it, it's blown. You can't go back and say, do-overs. No, I already don't want to talk to you some more. Right? We've had that conversation. I don't need that. Right? You'll find those sometimes, not you, but colloquially you, oftentimes the person is really anxious to do their amends because they're guilty. They feel guilty. Guilty's good. Depression's good because that means your conscience is intact and you're offended by what you've done. You feel bad about that's fine. Now we got to figure out how to address that in a manner that you don't make more people hurt while you're healing yourself. Right? So some of this stuff I got to learn to live with. I'll give you an example about how much I know. This is an example of I don't know shit. Yet another example, okay. So, the first girl I ever lived with was a girl I went to high school with, grew up with her. Susan. Gorgeous little Lebanese. Temper. Oh. Anyway, we had an apartment here, and I was a musician. I put myself in a position in town where I couldn't work anymore. Some union misunderstandings. I don't know. Surrounded by narrow-minded people. Anyway, I had an agent friend said, we need a front guy out here in Colorado. You want to come out? Yeah. So I moved to Colorado. Goodbye. See ya. Been fun. And about 6 or 8 months later, I opened the door. It's Susan. My first response was, what the hell are you doing here? Nice guy, huh? Haven't seen you yet. What the hell are you doing here? My recollection is she stayed with me for about a week, and I treated her like shit. She worked, she saved up her money, she took time off work to come surprise me, right? Because she loves me and I love her. You know, I was 19, right? And I treated her like shit. You know why? Because her expression of care and love for me freaked me out, because I felt so undeserving. I felt so dirty and broken. I couldn't allow her to be nice to me. So anyway, I abused her and sent her away. Never heard from her again. Now, this is one of the hundreds of things in my consciousness now. And I carried that for years. I mean, many. Almost 20. And you know about resentments and refeeling. You know, by the time I got back to town here and I got sober, and I had a few years under my belt, Susan was just haunting me. And she lived in town here. Now, this is the scenario I built up. I ruined her. She probably was in therapy for years. She never got married. Probably never trusted another man. No kids. Probably hasn't even been able to hold a job. She's been so destroyed and distraught over the years. So I called her to meet her for coffee to have the conversation, and I spit out some version of, I'm sorry, I was really a jerk. And she said, oh, I knew you were crazy. How you been? It was like, pardon me, you don't know shit, Roger. You made up a story out of your guilt and shame to keep your guilt and shame alive all those years. And the truth was, she was relatively sane. She was relatively normal. And she was sitting with a goofy guy, and she's, oh, I knew you were crazy. Yeah, she's married and had a bunch of kids. Shut! I didn't ruin her at all. She thrived. She thrived in spite of my enormous love that I just trashed her. So, you start doing that. If I can be that wrong about that, what else can I be that wrong? So I want to be really careful with this exercise. And the exercise essentially is, I want to tell you that I was wrong and this is how I harmed you. I need to do that in a manner that doesn't create more harm. Okay? But the gist of that is that's the opening, and then the middle part is these are the things I did. And the third part is, and this is what I'm going to do to correct that. And if you have any other suggestions, I'm willing to listen to those at the end. It rarely takes more than 30, 40 seconds. And then sometimes you get varied responses. Some of you probably have had this experience. Some people are, oh, we knew you were nuts. We're so glad you're feeling better now. Go, 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 go. Right? Other people go, well, there's a few other things. There's just a few other items you forgot. Let me remind you. And you start getting this shower of doo-doo. Right? And it's like, whoa. And it tells me how to be in this. Be kind, compassionate. Don't be servile. Don't be screaming. But it's not. You get to tell me your story too. What was your experience of being with you? You get a right to say that. And then we go, what can we do to make this right? Well, the first thing I want you to know is I've changed the behavior. Now, there's two things here. This is me. This isn't the book. There is one thing saying, I owe you this amend because I lied to you. That's my amended John. There's another bigger idea here. When are you going to quit being dishonest, period? It doesn't do any good to own the harm I did to him for lying and keep lying to you and you and you and you. Nothing's going to heal. What it's going to do is I'm going to fix this hole, fill this hole up with forgiveness, understanding, or whatever, and I'm going to dig another hole over here. Do you see what I'm saying? If you want to quit gossiping, if you're doing the meant for gossiping, then quit gossiping. Across the board, just quit gossiping. If you're going to go to someone about your stealing, you got to quit stealing. Everywhere? Yeah, everywhere. That's not the Salvation Army. The guy who was a car thief. That's how he made his living. And we were talking about this, and he was appalled that I was asking him to give up his career. I said, I'm not asking you to give up your career, but you can't live, with felony level, Grand Theft Auto hanging over your head. I mean, I don't think that's what this program is talking about. Just for your consideration. So, do you get what I'm saying, though? This is a piece we miss. We water it down and go, I owe you a minute, and we go around and do all that, but we still act in the same way. We're just doing it with different people. I am not going to be lifted by that experience. What I'm going to get from that experience is, this stuff doesn't work, 1. 2, I still feel like crap because I'm not seeing the big picture. I need to fundamentally change how I'm coming to you. Now, there's an expectation in this restoration idea that this will be restored to the condition it was before I blew a hole in your life. Maybe. And maybe not. Maybe and maybe not. And I don't get to decide. If there's going to be a healing, I've already brought mine to the table. I'm willing to own it, correct it, and leave it in the past. What you're willing to do with that is your business. And if you want to hold on to it, I got nothing I can do with that. Except, remember you're in the workhouse. When you come back to me now, after we had this conversation, and you throw this in my face 6 months, a year from now, sorry. We had that conversation. And I fulfilled my obligation. Debt paid. I paid that utility bill. I'm not paying January again. I paid you the money we decided I owed you, or I paid you in my changed behavior. I changed you. I told you, a lot of us parentally, family-wise, we say, well, my amend's going to be, I'm going to start showing up for stuff. I'm going to show up for the graduations. I'll show up for the Christmas. I'll show up, and I won't tear the tree down, and I won't go into my diatribe about Jesus. And I'll be civil. I won't criticize. I won't argue. I'll show up. A lot of times we do that sort of amend too. So, roughly, obviously, we can't go into great depth and detail on all the different angles, but the idea is to make whole. But I don't have the power to make it whole. I only have the power to do my part. And if you want to make it whole, then we'll work something out. But over time, I've never had it happen in the moment. I know people that have had. And the book talks about, years of feuding melt away. Well, it was more like a glacier in my case. It didn't melt away. It did change. Because it will change. My relationship with you has to change if I fundamentally change how I'm acting with you. That doesn't mean I got to hang out with everyone. I'm thinking of family members, but it doesn't mean I have to hang out with all these people. That's not what it means. It means I need to be different. If I told you I'm going to quit making up stories about you and other people, we call that character assassination. Heavily laden with lying. If I've told you I'm going to stop that, then I need to stop it. If I tell you I'm going to stop it, I was wrong, this is I harmed you, and I go through that whole exercise, and 3 months later I come back to you and say, Karen, I'm really sorry, I did it again. What is she going to surmise? This shit doesn't work. Or you're not doing it. For sure, you're gonna come to the conclusion you haven't changed a bit. You slowed down a little, but you haven't changed fundamentally. You haven't changed at all. Now, we know that when that happens to us in recovery, we have a context, and I understand that differently. But people that don't have this context, their conclusion is going to be, you haven't changed. You haven't changed at all. You quit lying to me, now I found you stealing from me. Oh. Wow, that recovery thing's really working well for you. Whoa. You'll be running that thing in no time. Right? So, but let's say this. Everything I had has been adjusted. So it's completely gone away. So it just got tweaked. It took me 18 years to finish my financial amends. I thought those were the awful ones. Those are really the easy ones. Just paying money. And I'd whine sometimes. Hard to imagine. Sometimes I'd be whining in a meeting. They want my money. They're taking all my money. Government. X. Kids. They're taking all my money. And one of these AA brothers would put me in a loving embrace and tell me, no, they want their money. They want their money. They want their money. I made my financial amends, totally out of spite. I know it's not one of the spiritual principles, but I was sitting around meetings. I should never go to those things. They wrecked my life. Sitting around a meeting, all these guys are talking about filing something called Chapter 7. Bankruptcy, get out of debt, new, do over. I thought, that sounds pretty good. And I'm mumbling. I had some real assholes in my life. And when I mumble some of these things, it wasn't very often, but always there was one of them there. And it was always the same, come here, kid. All these D-Day guys, Normandy. Come here, you little puke. And he said things like, you bought it, you pay for it. He said, what about the drug dealers? They're criminals. Well, they're going to kill your ass. Yeah, you bought it, you pay for it. I said, okay, fine. I'll show you, you old fart. Of course, I didn't get done by the time he died, but that was not virtue. That was not willingness, right? That's how God used that guy with me, though. I'll show you. Tell you something about financial men. Hated him. I like being a big shot. If I owe you $500, I want to come in like 500 C notes right out there and go, there you go, Mikey. Oh, here's an extra 50 for, for fun. Interest, 10%, not bad. See ya. Right? I don't want, and I owed everyone money. I do not want to have this conversation. Mikey, I owe you $500. I'm a little light. I'm unemployable. I'm still bleeding a little bit inside, and I can give you $5 a month. What? $5 a month? That's 100 months from now. That's 100 months to get my 500 back? 100 months? That's almost 9 years. 500, 9 years. And I did want to have that conversation, but they said, don't make a commitment that you can't keep. I want to say, I'll give you all $100 a month. I can't possibly do that. I owe 25 people money. International sign. And that one slipped. Sorry, Dai. She's back there a little squirking. Oh, when do I get him back to the office? Oh. So here's the deal. I had no idea this principle, restitution. I had no idea the power it contained. So I'm making my amends because I'm pissed off, and I'll show you. Right? Not very spiritual. And now it's more humiliating because if I do get some money, I have to divide it into $5 and $10 money orders that I have to go down to frickin' Walgreens to get. With all the old people in the walkers and the oxygen shit, I'm a big deal. I can't have a bank account because I'm such a good financial planner. I can't have a bank account for years. So I'm a money order guy. Oh, shit. Don't forget to allow for stamps. Gotta quit stealing stamps, too. Shit! And so I'm writing these damn things out. It just, But over time, I started kind of liking it. I didn't know this was going to... So I'm emboldened now with my success. I go to my dad. I have borrowed so much money from my parents. And down payment for a house. Yeah. It's me. I'm in Colorado. I blew the engine up my truck. Send me $600. I'll get it back to you in a month. No problem, Dad. Yeah, I love you. Right? Just for years. Not for days. Not for weeks. For decades. So I go to my dad. He's got an office in the basement of his house, and he's sitting there at his desk, and I go, Pop, I've been doing this for a while. I got to get right with you. I have no idea how much money I owe you, but I want to start making some financial amends. He said, oh, just a minute. Pulls open a drawer with a bloody spreadsheet of every penny he ever gave me. I'm going, whoa, that is a staggering sum. I had no idea. I didn't think you did. So I made this deal. I'll pay you this much a month. And then when I got these other things paid off, I could pay him more. This is the transformative power of this getting right thing. Because I also quit borrowing money. Okay? But what happened, anyone who knows me, I cannot write. It's just scribble. There's kind of an R and kind of a B and lines in between. And when I try and write something, I start out block printing, and by the end of the 2 words I'm writing, it's all leaning one way or the other. Anyway, but I wrote these checks to him every month. And down where it says memo, clear, dark, block letters, financial amend. And I go out every month and do the presentation. Pop, I'm here with your check. Fine. And I present the check. And I will always present it with a financial amend facing him. Right? So this is a little game we played, but this went on for years. But I tell you, you want esteem? Do something esteemable. Getting right with people you've wronged is a way for that esteem to be genuine and authentic. It's real. You can't take that from me. And I'll never forget, I went out, this is when they're getting older, and my dad says, Mother and I talked, and you don't have to pay us anymore. We're going to call it debt canceled, whatever he said. I'm going, really? And I thought, you bastard. You can't do that to me. My mom's in the kitchen going, I'll take the check. I'll take it. When he died and I cleaned out all his stuff, I found all kinds of checks. And because I'm such a financial whiz, I never could figure out why I had all that extra money. When I occasionally would balance my statement, it would always come out wrong, but to my favor. So I thought, oh, what the hell? It was him, not cashing the checks. He cashed some, though. He cashed enough. But anyway, those are some examples. So I want to be able to have someone that I trust. Usually it's your sponsor. But I want to have someone I can trust. Someone who's been here and done this, right? When I work with a guy and he comes to me with a problem, if I haven't had that problem, I say, I know 2 other fellows. Can we bring them into the conversation? I know a car thief. And I know a burglar guy. And I know a wire fraud guy, too. Can we bring them into the conversation? Because they've all gone through this. Right? He'll say, yeah. Because you need to hear how people have dealt with this stuff. Because there's not just one way to do it. But I have to get right. Getting right means I have to get free. I cannot live with 30 years of crap that I've done and the guilt that's associated with it. And every time I have a good day, perhaps, or I start feeling like I'm doing better, hey, I'm really on my way, then that little machine starts playing in the back of my head. Yeah, what about this? What about Susan? You ruined her life. What about your parents? What about your children you walked out? I mean, it's always something. What about Val in 3rd grade? It's gone. It has no legs anymore. Because the amend cut the legs out from under it. It has no energy. It's gone. I've addressed it. Over time, it's all healed. It's all healed. The book has been adjusted. I am not... I mean, you guys know me. I don't like everyone. But I do love everyone. That's the distinction. I've learned how to love people I don't like. That doesn't mean I have to endorse their bullshit, but it means I cannot afford to get pious and get all that and forget that everyone's doing the best they can, and it's a messy business. We have the benefit of that structure to work from. They don't. They got nothing. Have any idea how scary that must be? Get another book. What's Oprah got? What's Deepak's latest? What's Eckhart doing? And I read this stuff and I go, and I cannot pull the trigger on it. I don't know how to do it. Read the Bible, makes sense, doesn't make sense. I don't know how to do it. Read the Quran, makes sense, doesn't make sense. I like some of that Buddhism shit. Not all of it. I'm kind of a modern Buddhist. You know what I mean? Cigar smoking Buddhist. You understand what I'm saying. Right? No. This allows me to find my way. Guides, to find my way. What? To the truth, yeah. To get free of the past, yeah. To find a direction that gives me purpose, that gives my life meaning, gives me some juice. Find a way. I mean, everyone's not in this class, but that shame, guilt thing that I had going, the last years of my drinking and the first 2 or 3 years of my recovery, I was consumed with self-loathing. I mean, there was no one on the planet that hated me more than me. And I didn't have the guts to kill myself. I was really hoping booze was going to do that. Doctor said it was going to work. Keep at it, kid. Make a commitment. You're almost there. Gotcha. You know, I know I was totally blown up by the time I was 28. So, free of all that. And then also having a methodology that I don't create more of it. That means fundamentally, I'm not just changing behavior. I'm changing where I come from. I'm just not going to treat people that way anymore. Everyone knows the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated and all that stuff. Fine. You reap what you sow. Fine. Right. So, what are they really saying is, I'm going to treat you the way I want to be treated, not to get you to treat me back that way. Because it's who I want to be. It's who I want to be. And if these guys are telling me the truth, it's going to come back. I made a mistake. I thought it was going to come back from you, the person I was doing it with. Rarely. Rarely have we seen reciprocation. That's all I'm saying. I won't say anymore. You know? It's been a couple, 300 hours. Never mind. Just moving on. But you understand? I be that way because that's who I want to be. I screw up liberally. Liberally. I make mistakes all the time. A lot of you get to watch them. A lot of you have really close seats for it. And you watch me adjust it and correct it and change it. And on we go. Because my thing is progress. If you're in this game and you think you got to do it perfectly, you're screwed. You're not going to get there until you modify that belief. Because you can't do it perfectly. It's not about perfection. It's about progress and striving towards a perfect state. When I strive towards a perfection, I miss much higher. When I have low expectation of myself, I miss low because I expect to miss low. Everyone lies, so I keep lying. That's not going to work. Just hanging together. So, I have to take a certain amount of responsibility for who I've been and what I've done. I have to understand it, that it wasn't because I was bad. It was because I was very ill. I got really sick. I got really sick way before I started drinking. The drinking mollified it for a while. Seemed like it was a good answer. And then when the drinking didn't work, everything just started multiplying. It was a train wreck. That wasn't because I was a bad guy. It's because I was a sick guy. I had no idea knowing I was sick. I had no way to know that. Why would I ever think self-reliance had failed me, for instance, when self-reliance was an organizing principle that I based my whole life on? So it can't be self-reliance failing me. It's got to be bad luck, shitty people, it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's got to be something else, because self-reliance can't fail me, because it's all I have. I am all I have. And I cannot embrace the idea that I have failed, because there's nothing else then. There's nothing else. Eat your gun. That's what's left. Because there's nowhere to turn for help. Because there's no one that can help me. Because I'm self-reliant. I'm not friend-reliant. I'm not group-reliant. I'm not community-reliant. I'm not 12-step reliant. I'm not God-reliant. I'm not higher power reliant. I'm not sponsor-reliant. None of that. I'm Roger-reliant. I'm Roger-reliant. God damn it, and it hasn't worked. The alternative is blow your brains out. This is the problem with the management question in the first step. Management has failed. Who's the manager? Oh, that would be me. But I love me so much. I can't fire me. Oh, who understands me more than me? Right? Jesus. We don't even know what the problem is. How on earth are we going to find out and figure out the solution? It's impossible. That's why we need someone to help us. Usually it's someone that's talking at a meeting, we hear and we go, oh shit, me too. We don't do it out loud. We just, It's kind of an inside cramping. Oh. And a depends moment. Right? It's identification. And this self-reliance thing starts breaking down because I start, he thought that way, she thought, I've done that. It's not gender specific at all. Just I start hearing the way people think, the way they approach stuff, their failures, and I go, shit, I find myself going, me too. Oh, huh. And pretty soon I realize I'm not the only bozo on the bus. I'm not on this bus alone. In fact, there's too many damn bozos on my bus. Now that you get down to it, right? I mean, this is the thing, when I work with the families down at MacGyver, this is the big aha. I do doctor's opinion with them. And the big aha is they get to hear each other start sharing. And for a lot of these people, it's the first time they've been around other people that are living with the same problem they're living with. And they go, shit, we're not alone. I mean, it brings them to tears. I've seen people just fall. We're not the only ones. Oh. And they just, it's beautiful. Beautiful. So, if there's going to be healing, I have something to do with that. I own it, I change it. I own it, change it with you, and I own it and change it globally. Do I do it perfectly? No! Correct as you fail. That's all. Correct as you fail. Move on. Try a little harder. Practice a little more. Right? And if you are going to forgive me, that word we use, or if there's going to be a healing, it's going to because God heals it. Because I have offended me, and I've offended you. We are both damaged from interacting together. And I've owned it to the best of my ability, and I've changed it, which is all I can do. Now I can let me off the hook. I will not let me off the hook if I haven't changed the behavior. I just took care of it with Kirsten, and I'm doing it with Don. Doing it with Mary. Doing it with Renee. And I clean up with Renee, now I'm doing it with Tim. That's not going to help me. That's going to drive me mad. Because it's like digging one hole, filling another hole. It's just ridiculous. It's like that whack-a-mole at the fair. It just... Not the club, please. So, God heals. I don't heal. Not my job. Not in my pay grade. Not in my power range at all. But God can change people's hearts. And your heart would, if you interact with someone, if you have to interact with someone, example, I know it's a stretch, a family member that perhaps you have a history with that's not too pleasant, but you've done your amends, right? And you've changed the behavior, and that person still is rather irritating to be around. In time, if I maintain my behavior with you, your heart will change. It's that axiom. Prayer changes the person who prays. These principles change the person who practices them, not the person who talks about them, who tries to live them in your own sloppy, incomplete way. And the problem is this, is for that person who wants me to be the way I was so they can keep their grievance alive, that person is now dead. I'm not there anymore. Bill paid. History, dead. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I will be kind, I'll be considerate, I will not criticize it. I will not argue. It may mean many bloody tongues. It may be biting through my lower lip, but I will not argue. I will not criticize. If you can pull that off, 98% of your conflict just disappeared. It doesn't mean you won't be in the bathroom going into the Charmin. That's okay. Just don't do it with Uncle Ben. Right? Does it make sense? The fundamental shift in the way I be in the world. I got to get free of the past. For me, just for me, that's where all the guilt and the shame started coming off. That's why usually, as you progress through these amends, you start with the easy ones, then you do the ones that are more difficult, and eventually you get to the ones you were never going to do. By the time you get to those, you want to do them because you're in a different place. But you don't have to be there now. Don't think about the things you don't want to do. Think about the things you're willing to do. Do those first, and then do them with someone who can help you. Because guilt is so slippery. It's so easy to build this case about how I must do this because honesty is the principle that I'm trying to live from now. And then you go have this conversation, and the minute the words get out of your mouth, you see it on their face. Oh, shit. And I know, in that moment, I just did that because I felt guilty. And I wanted you to absolve me of my guilt. And now what we got is more guilt and more shame. And you don't get a do-over. I didn't. So, I think that's enough for a night, don't you? Yes. So, we'll conclude with a hallelujah and an altar call.